Making games is hard, and what's even harder is making games in an engine that you haven't used in over 10 years. Like I've mentioned in my previous devlogs, after Unity's pricing change, I decided to jump ship to GameMaker Studio and redesign and develop an overhaul update for my commercial game Don't Stop You'll Die. I wanted to make this update because I originally made the game in 6 weeks. The code was messy and not really scalable, and too many systems were heavily reliant on each other, which meant that changing things or adding new content later was almost impossible without breaking the entire game. I also wanted to make this update because I'm not really happy or proud of the game that I had released, and in hindsight I really should have taken my time with it, especially considering that I wanted to release it on Steam. Now, I initially released the game back in 2022, and this update has taken 3 attempts alone prior to switching to GameMaker. I quickly realised that I was stuck in a vicious cycle of development hell, but I really do want to make this a game that I can be proud of. After weeks and weeks spent using GameMaker, I came to the conclusion that it just wasn't the engine for me, which became a motivation killer really quickly. Just comparative to Unity, the editor doesn't feel as intuitive with its node-based workspace, and the syntax of GameMaker language is kind of confusing 99% of the time. So yet again, I'm trying a new engine. Is it overambitious that I'm trying to recreate my game in an entirely new engine that I have zero experience in? Yes. Am I going to do it anyway? Also yes. So, like I did a few weeks ago, I found myself back at square one looking into engines and which one would be best for me. I said in a previous video that Godot wasn't for me, but after the Godot 4 release I've heard some pretty good things about it, so I thought I'd give it a shot. One of the big features that players were asking for was an endless mode, as in the original game the runs felt too short and people wanted more. So instead of opting in for an unlimited amount of waves, I decided to go down the Vampire Survivors-like route, as it's a game that I quite enjoy, and I feel like I can play on the core health loss mechanic within the items and upgrades. I jumped in and followed a tutorial series by Firebelly on how to do so, and in the end I had the basis for a Survivors-like game. It's very basic at the moment, but super easy to expand upon. With this being finished, I moved on to the health loss mechanic. If you haven't played Don't Stop You'll Die, the core mechanic or hook of the game is that the player loses health when standing still. So I read through my code, figured out the best place to handle this, and tacked it on, which ended up being a lot easier than I thought. But that's all for this video. If you enjoyed, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.